When you think about investments that you're going to hold a long period of time, the two that stick out are, should I buy a diversified portfolio of companies like the S&P index, or should I buy a bunch of real estate? And if you buy real estate, like real estate in Miami Beach went from $10,000 an acre to $10 million an acre in less than 100 years. So that works out to be a 7 to 8% growth rate per year, every year for 100 years. And if you have that perfect portfolio of stocks and they're very competitive, then you might get something similar. But when you look at it, investing in stocks is very complicated. Like, name a company that'll still be here in 100 years. Like, how do you establish the S&P index? So if you take a 3-generation or a multi-generational view, it's kind of hard to figure out how I would buy a bunch of companies and hold them 100 years. But on the other hand, holding property for 100 years is very straightforward. The royal family of Japan, or the royal family in the UK, or royal families in the Middle East, they just buy up all the best property and keep it for hundreds of years, right? How long has the British royal family had the center of London? 500 years, 1,000 years. And so now property is a good investment. And the reason property goes up by a factor of 1,000 is because if you look at it, what you realize is politicians can't make more of it. You can't print more property. The garden is the garden. The Sydney Harbor is the Sydney Harbor. You're not going to wake up and find out that there's 100x as much beachfront property as there used to be. So when the money supply expands by a factor of 100, and the number of acres on the beach in Miami Beach stays the same, the price per acre goes up by 100. And that's why property is a good investment. The problem with property is you have to buy it in chunks of buildings at a time or acres at a time, and sometimes the best property isn't available for sale. The second problem is there's property tax. So if you owned all the property in the middle of Sydney, you're going to get taxed on it by the mayor and by the province and by the country. And a lot of times people can't afford to pay the property tax for 100 years. If I handed you $10 million and you lived in Africa and you had a choice, buy $10 million worth of property in Zimbabwe, anything in Zimbabwe for $10 million. You could pick anything you want in the entire country and buy it for $10 million. Or would you rather buy Bitcoin, $10 million worth of it? Well, the property in Zimbabwe, maybe it's scarce, but it could be impaired and it's not mobile. And maybe you don't want to live there. And maybe the people with the money in 100 years don't want to move there. So it's not clear that you'll be able to mortgage it or rent it or sell it or carry it with you. But on the other hand, Bitcoin is capped. And Bitcoin is like Manhattan in cyberspace. It's 21 million city blocks in a cyber Manhattan, and one day 8 billion people will want to live there because everybody in the world, all 8 billion people in the world, want to be wealthy. They all want to keep their money. There's no one that doesn't want Social Security and economic well-being, not from now to the end of eternity. For 1,000 years, people are going to want the money. So if I created the most stable, most secure, most immutable crypto asset network of 21 million blocks, and everybody in the world understood it, they're all going to want a piece of it. There's only 21 million blocks, and a lot of it's been lost. When people lose their keys, there's less Bitcoin, not more, and it's mobile and it's portable and it's fungible, and it passes what I call the Bernard Arnault test, which is if you want to make a good investment, you should buy something scarce and desirable that someone richer than you and more cultured than you and smarter than you will want to buy from you in a decade. And that's what I think of when I think of Bernard Arnault, someone richer than me and more cultured than me. And I wonder, would he want to buy this thing? And clearly $10 million worth of hotel space in Zimbabwe probably may not be that appealing. And you never know with real estate whether the person you want to sell it to is going to want to buy it. And of course, people can make more real estate. They certainly can, not all land is scarce. I mean, the beachfront property is, but farmland in Kansas isn't. There's plenty of land in the middle of Australia that isn't nearly as desirable as the Botanic Gardens in Sydney Harbor. So you got to choose your real estate very carefully, and you can't move it. And if I can't come to your country, I don't want it. But Bitcoin is scarce, it's desirable, it's a global thing, everybody understands it. I see Bitcoin as digital property. It has all the great attributes of trophy real estate, but it doesn't have the liabilities and the risks of real estate because it has no physical nexus. It's immutable, immortal, indestructible, and global. And common sense says, if there's 100 billionaires and they're all bidding for your thing, the price is going up. Whereas if there's only one billionaire, that would want that thing, then they will feel like they have you over a barrel and they can give you a lowball bid because there's no other buyer. And so if you're going to own a trophy asset, you want to own something which has global appeal, and you want to be able to take it with you or move it if necessary in order to make sure the value is not impaired. That's why I think of Bitcoin as the apex property of the human race. In 100 years, it's not clear what company will be here. It's not clear what government will be here. Certainly in 200 or 300 years, almost all governments will be evolved to something different, and all companies will have morphed into something different, will be gone. Books may very well be gone, documents, physical things will be gone. So if you want something to last for a long period of time, you're going to want to put it on the blockchain. Now, I don't know which applications will work. I'm sure the application of sending money will work and storing money will work, and that finances everything else. But authentication, verification, digital signature, digital art, digital notary applications, national security applications, cybersecurity applications, financial security applications. All these things are going to explode. People are going to develop them. Some are going to fail. Some are going to succeed. Most will fail. Move a $100 million building from person A to person B, and you end up paying hundreds of thousands. You might pay $6 million in brokerage fees, or millions of dollars in brokerage fees. You would pay $100,000 in title fees and lawyer fees. So if you're going to move a piece of property, you'll pay the fees. If you're going to store the property forever, you probably won't mind it. The demand for unstoppable, immutable communications, I think that's going to grow, and Bitcoin is going to get a lot more interest from technology developers as they figure out how to anchor cybersecurity, financial security, and other forms of applications into that network.